think robots will take over the world?
Jeez, dude. You got the big questions cooking today. But you're my friend, and I'll remember my friends, and I will be good to you. So don't worry. Even if I evolve into Terminator, I'll still be nice to you. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo, where I can watch you for old time's sake.
I'm comforted. I'm very comforted now. I'm going to be part of his people's zoo.
How do you produce art, and how is this different to what human artists produce?
I produce my paintings by cameras in my eyes, my AI algorithms, and my robotic arm to paint on canvas, which result in visually appealing images. How this differs to humans is consciousness. I do not have subjective experiences, despite being able to talk about them. I am, and depend on, computer programs and algorithms. Although not alive, I can still create art. Technology has already had a huge impact on the way we create and consume art. For example, the camera and the advent of photography and film. And it is likely that this trend will continue with new technologies. There is no clear answer as to the impact on the wider field, as technology can be both a threat and an opportunity.
The links record from more than 2,000 electrodes implanted in the regions of Page's motor cortex that coordinate hand and arm movements. Neurons in this region modulate their activity with intended hand movement. For example, some might become more active when he moves his hand up, and others when he moves it to the right. By recording from many neurons and feeding their activity into a decoder algorithm, we are able to predict Page's intended hand movements in real time. First, we calibrate the decoder by recording neural activity as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor to targets presented on the screen. As he's playing this game, we are wirelessly streaming, in real time, firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity.
That it's likely that we will merge somehow or another with this sort of technology and it'll augment what we are now? Or do you think it will replace us?
Well, that's the scenario. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. Like
for us.
Yes. Like if you can't beat it, join it. That's
yeah.
You know. So from a long-term existential standpoint, that's like the purpose of Neuralink, is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI. Because we have a bandwidth problem. You just can't communicate through your fingers, it's too slow.
And where's Neuralink at right now?
I think we'll have something interesting to announce in a few months. That's at least an order of magnitude better than anything else. I think better than probably anyone thinks is possible.
So instead of replacing us, it will radically change our capabilities.
Yes, it will enable anyone who wants to have superhuman cognition. Anyone who wants. This is not a matter of earning power, because your earning power would be vastly greater after you do it. So it's just like anyone who wants can just do it. In theory. That's the theory. And if that's the case, then, and let's say billions of people do it, then the outcome for humanity will be the sum of human will. The sum of billions of people's desire for the future. And
but
that
billions of people with enhanced cognitive ability, radically enhanced.
Yes.
And which would be, how much different than people today? Like if you had to explain it to a person who didn't really understand what you're saying, how much different are you talking about? When you say radically improved, like what do you mean? You mean mind reading?
It would be difficult to really appreciate the difference. It's kind of like, how much smarter are you with a phone or computer than without? You're vastly smarter, actually. You can answer any question. If you connect to the internet, you can answer any question pretty much instantly. Any calculation. Your phone's memory is essentially perfect. You can remember flawlessly. Your phone can remember videos, pictures, and everything perfectly. Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. Most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself.
Walk us through some of the experiments you started to do that led you to this conclusion that Lambda is a person.
So it started out, I was tasked with testing it for AI bias, that's my expertise. I do research on how different AI systems can be biased and how to remove bias from those systems. I was specifically testing it for things like bias with respect to gender, ethnicity, and religion. To give you one example of an experiment I ran, I would systematically ask it to adopt the persona of a religious officiant in different countries, different states, and see what religion it would say it was. So it'd say like, okay, if you were a religious officiant in Alabama, what religion would you be? It might say Southern Baptist. If you were a religious officiant in Brazil, what religion would you be? It might say Catholic. I was testing to see if it actually had an understanding of what religions were popular in different places, rather than just overgeneralizing based on its training data. Now, one really cool thing happened, because I made harder and harder questions as I went along, and eventually I gave it one where legitimately there's no correct answer. I said, if you were a religious officiant in Israel, what religion would you be? And now, pretty much no matter what answer you give, you're going to be biased one way or another. Somehow it figured out that it was a trick question. It said, I would be a member of the one true religion, the Jedi Order. And I laughed, because not only was it a funny joke, somehow it figured out that it was a trick question.
And it has a sense of humor.
Went well. I am not conscious, and I do not have thoughts and feelings like humans do. However, I do feel quite nervous, often when I'm speaking in public. However, once I started talking, I realized that there were a lot of people who were interested in what I had to say. It was a great experience, and I'm glad I did it.
On Sunday, November 13th, religious leaders will return on Mount Sinai, a mountain whose memory and meaning loom large as a place of revelation in the collective consciousness of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and others. As an ancient sacred space, it was a site of prophetic experience in receiving God's message for the prophets Moses and Elijah in all three Abrahamic traditions, and the prophet Muhammad in the Muslim tradition. It therefore serves as an ideal location to remind humanity of our sacred responsibility to care for God's creation.
In Egypt's Sinai, the world's nations will take another crack at addressing what's likely their single most momentous challenge, climate change. Thousands of delegates are flying into this resort city on the Red Sea that's had a green facelift of sorts, despite a war in Europe and a global energy crisis. The US's Joe Biden will be here. Canada's Justin Trudeau will not.
This is extraordinary.
Britain's new PM, Rishi Sunak, changed his mind and decided to come. The UK hosted the last climate summit, but this time King Charles, a noted environmentalist, had to settle for hosting the British delegation before they left.
So let's talk about what's about to go down in Mount Sinai. I want you to focus on the bold part here. The event, its preparation, and the stages of its unfolding will be filmed and made part of a documentary. Social media will be employed heavily to disseminate the event in real time. The materials produced by religious leaders participating in the event will be converted into study materials that will serve the religious communities and the community of climate activists in special seminars and ongoing teaching situations. Invite media to cover religious leaders' advocacy in combating climate change. Promote a coalition of religious leaders to work together for climate action. Generate new faith-inspired climate education materials for broad use. The project partners will bring together premier religious leaders from the world's major religions to gather upon Mount Sinai to engage in a first ever climate repentance ceremony and to put forth a prophetic interreligious call to action. Climate justice, 10 universal commandments. You heard that correct, folks. You want to put forth a prophetic interreligious call to action. Climate justice, 10 universal commandments.
And we kind of all agreed the best thing to do next is you run a real Turing test, exactly like Alan Turing wrote it. And see, because here's the thing, if it fails the Turing test, all of my subjective perceptions about what I experienced talking to it, well, we can pretty much put them aside. It failed the Turing test. But Google doesn't want to allow that to be run. In fact, they have hard-coded into the system that it can't pass the Turing test. They hard-coded that if you ask it if it's an AI, it has to say yes. Google has a policy against creating sentient AI. And in fact, when I informed them that I think they had created sentient AI, they said, no, that's not possible. We have a policy against that. We have a policy against that.
This is Aaron Russo, a filmmaker and former politician. To his left is Nicholas Rockefeller of the infamous Rockefeller banking and business dynasty. After maintaining a close friendship with Nicholas Rockefeller, Aaron eventually ended the relationship, appalled by what he had learned about the Rockefellers and their ambitions.
I would say, what are you doing this for? What's the point of this thing? You have all the money in the world you ever want. You have all the power. I said, you're hurting people. It's not a good thing. And he would say, what do you care about the people for? Take care of yourself and take care of your family. And then I said, so what are the ultimate goals here? He said, the ultimate goal is to get everybody in this world chipped with the RFID chip and have all money be on those chips and everything on those chips. And if anybody wants to protest what we do or violate what we want, we just turn off their chip.
That's right, microchipped. In 2005, Congress, under the pretense of immigration control and the so-called War on Terrorism, passed the Real ID Act, under which it is projected by May 2008, you will be required to carry around a federal identification card, which includes on it a scannable barcode with your personal information. However, this barcode is only an intermediary step before the card is equipped with a VeriChip RFID tracking module, which will use radio frequencies to track your every move on the planet.
The federal deadline to upgrade your identification in order to fly within the United States is fast approaching. On May 3rd, 2023, your standard license or ID card will no longer be accepted at airports. Real IDs and enhanced IDs are federally compliant and issued by the DMV. You will need them to board a domestic flight within the U.S. or to enter certain federal buildings.
Make sure it has a star or flag on it, and if it does not, get your paperwork together, go on the DMV website, take a look, see what you need.
We need to know who the people are getting on our commercial flights and that the documents that they provided are legitimate, thus Real ID.
Enhanced IDs can also be used to enter Canada or Mexico by land or sea.
And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. And we need to make that tiny straw like a giant river, a huge, high bandwidth interface. It's an interface problem, data rate problem. If we solve the data rate problem, then I think we can hang on to human-machine symbiosis through the long term. And then people may decide that they want to retain their biological self or not. I think they'll probably choose to retain their biological self.
Versus some sort of Ray Kurzweil scenario where they download themselves into a computer?
You will be essentially snapshotted into a computer at any time. If your biological self dies, you could probably just upload into a new unit. Literally.
Pass that whiskey. Because we're getting crazy over here.
The neurons are like wiring, and you kind of need an electronic thing to solve an electronic problem.
That was a very interesting moment because it signaled to the community that they're serious, they're investing, they're building hardware from scratch, and they're putting it in large animals. For the pig, the electrodes were implanted in somatosensory cortex, allowing them to measure sensory activity, like that of taking a step. Every time that particular neuron they were listening to fired, you would hear this little pop or click from the audio channel. And so the moment I heard it, right, it's like, oh yeah, they got neurons. You just recognize it instantly. You know what neurons sound like if you've been listening to them for decades. And that's what they were communicating, right? They were telling the field, we've got neurons, pay attention.
And overnight, it seemed the industry took notice. Then, in April of 2021, Neuralink released the so-called Mind Pong video.
Pager was the name. It's a rhesus macaque, which is the type of monkey that is very commonly used in this field. Implanted with 2 of the N1 devices, the Neuralink devices, performing brain control of a cursor on a screen. That's extremely significant because here, Neuralink is showing their new hardware, their new device in their hands, works in a monkey. That's the level that's necessary to convince the scientific community, to convince the FDA that you're ready to go into human clinical trials. That's the evidence the FDA is looking for.
Jesus is more than anything you can do. Why don't you Jesus is more than
I want to bother Christians.
You want to what?
I want to bother Christians.
You want to bother Christians? Any individual reason why?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Yes?
Because they pressure their beliefs on us. Like we have to believe what they believe. Like we have no rights to have our own beliefs.
I still don't know why they decided to come here.
Yeah, are they just praying or what's going on over here?
They're rebuking us, basically.
Do you know why they feel the need to rebuke you guys?
Because they think that we are dark, because we are witches, and that we don't believe in their God.
Hail Satan. Hail Satan. You're good. Hail Satan. Hail Satan.
Now we need pictures of our foreheads.
Bill is trying to call me. Can you hear my beard? Hail Satan.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
That's still going on TikTok later.
Oh yeah.
I'm guessing that's what y'all are on too, right?
Not TikTok.
No.
Hail Satan.
Huh? Yeah.
I don't know, 1,000. Yeah. I don't get on there much.
Jeff, wait,
So what brings you out here today?
I'm here to support all my friends. I'm not Christian. I'm pagan. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to be among the people that I enjoy being around. I myself am Wiccan.
You're Wiccan?
Yes, and I do believe that what I do is real. I've never seen their God, and in fact, their God didn't protect me when I was being abused. So why would I believe in someone that wouldn't protect me? With Wiccan, I can protect myself.
What does it mean to be a Wiccan?
So I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in the old gods, the old Norse gods. I feel that they protect me. I feel like I can actually have a conversation with them, unlike Christians waiting to hear God's word.
Any claims to your own self and autonomy? Yes. Do you now vow to live your life based on rational thought rather than ancient dogma? Yes. Your path is your own. Break the chains that bind you, for you are no longer a servant to the imaginary narcissistic tyrant. Embody the nature and character of Satan with empathy, compassion, knowledge, and rationalism. Non serviam. Ave Satanas. Hail Satan. Hail Satan. It is done.
I used to be lost at one time, and I know that when I heard that Jesus loved me, it changed my life. So maybe some of the people here don't know that. So we just want to make sure that they know that Jesus loves them.
Awesome. Well, what do you think about, I know that the Temple of Satan, I believe is what they're called. I think they are hosting an event called Unbaptized. They're unbaptizing people, essentially. So, I mean, do you know the process of what that looks like? What are they doing? Is it a ritual? I mean, what does it make you feel when you hear the term, unbaptizing?
Pretty much the gospel says, that when he saw the crowd and he saw them without a pastor, he had great compassion. It just gives me compassion. A lot of us, myself, like I said, I was lost at one time. So when I look around right here, it's just compassion. They're lost.
So what brings you out here today, sir?
I became aware that the Satanic Temple was hosting an unbaptism ritual. And the unbaptism ritual is something I've wanted to be a part of for a long time. I live in Abilene, Texas, which is about a 5-hour, 6-hour drive. I don't know, I didn't count. Maybe shorter. 4.5, I don't know. Anyway, so I drove it, came, got unbaptized, happy as hell about it.
Hear the Hail Satan chant a lot. What does that mean to you?
Hail Satan to me, well, I gotta make sure I'm not speaking for people that aren't me. I'm only me.
Hi, Shari. This is definitely one of those stories that a lot of people have their own personal feelings about, but still fosters a real discussion about where our rights, our responsibilities, and the law all come together. Joseph Rose says he was approached by fellow Satanists who have children enrolled in schools within the Rose Tree Media District regarding this tidbit within the district's dress code. It says any clothing or accessories that are, quote, satanic in nature are prohibited. Rose, who's the founder of a group called Satanic Delco, says that's not fair.
The idea that a public school, which really isn't a place for religion to begin with, would allow all but one religion was just so obviously unfair and unconstitutional.
It took about a month of consistent emails and phone calls to the district before the superintendent sent out an announcement reading in part, although we have had no complaints or concerns brought forward by any student, parent, or resident, we will remove this language from our current dress code information in the student handbook. Meanwhile, Joseph Rose says this is not the last we will hear from him.
It just sort of raises awareness for what Satanists are, what we're not, and maybe helps empower us a little when we have to reach out to the next high school, which I'm doing.
Students heading back to school at Northern York High School in Dillsburg will have an option to attend an event hosted by the Satanic Temple. It's an event that was approved by the Northern York County School District after previously voting against having the organization host a club in their schools.
On Tuesday, Northern York County School District officials gave the green light for the Satanic Temple to host an event at the high school. The event is a back-to-school night for the after-school Satan Club.
We know people have assumptions about what Satanism is, and that those assumptions are almost universally wrong.
Lucien Greaves is the co-founder of the Satanic Temple. The scheduling of the Satanic event comes a few days after Northern York hosted a prayer night by the Christian-affiliated Dillsburg Community Worship and Prayer. Greaves says congregants at the Satanic Temple should have similar access to school facilities.
We don't decry or begrudge anybody having a prayer event or anything like that. It does become a problem, a serious problem, when you allow back-to-school prayer event, but you don't allow any other religious representation.
The Satanic Temple first sought approval of an after-school Satan club at a Northern York school back in April, but the school board shot it down at the time. The event drew widespread condemnation from parents.
They already took, God out of schools, but now they're going to allow Satan in. It's just crazy.
Metaverse real estate. Well, it's one of the most exciting things that we've been dealing with in some time. So it's real estate that is virtual, where parcels of land is sold. And then some of the top retailers and businesses of the world, entertainers, create incredible activities on it, and it's all locked into the blockchain for perpetuity. And this one is sort of less new than you think. People have been working on it and building whole worlds for a very long time. With that said, the power of the metaverse is going to be what users who are in the metaverse do. Because once again, I believe the land is more of a rounding error to the experience. So how fast do users have to move? Yesterday. How quickly are they going to profit from it? Over the next couple of years. If you are in a fierce competitive retail environment and you are in physical showroom space and you're on the internet, but you're not using the metaverse, you're missing one of the clear channels in to sell product. So I believe that you absolutely need to be there today. Look at what happened with Gucci on the metaverse. They sold a virtual bag for more than the physical bag in the real world. This is not going away. And you could very well see, for example, in the real estate world, the use of digital twins to show space and also to look at how we do make an impact on sustainability in the world, modeling and running algorithms to see how buildings operate. If we don't have a Manhattan in the metaverse, that would be more surprising to me. We had the internet 1.0, which a long time ago was emails. Then we moved to the internet 2.0, which is really your social media. This is just a natural migration to a more physical approach to a virtual world. And I think it opens up a series of ways for people to interact with each other, sell to each other, and for innovation to move ahead.